You know, at Christmas time, there are two big productions you're bound to hear about. One is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. A play, a movie, a TV show, a cartoon. Someone somewhere is bound to produce a version of Dickens' story. The other is The Nutcracker, the famous ballet by Tchaikovsky. It's pretty much guaranteed that a major ballet company is performing the story for Christmas, and that's what we're talking about in this video. You may not know it, but the Nutcracker did not start with Tchaikovsky. No. The ballet is based on a short story written in 1816 by E.T.A. Hoffmann, a Prussian author. You may have heard of a film by Powell and Pressburger called The Tales of Hoffmann, and this author is the Hoffmann of that title. He was a contemporary of Mary Shelley and one of the founders of science fiction. In the ballet story, a little girl named Clara has a godfather named Herr Drosselmeyer, who makes wonderful clockwork toys and shows these off at a Christmas party. One is a nutcracker in the shape of a toy soldier, which a rotten kid at the party breaks to spite the little girl. Later, the girl falls asleep and dreams of an adventure with the Nutcracker Prince, warding off the evil Mouse King, and then journeying to a magical land. The original story is a bit longer than the one we're used to and gives more backstory into the Nutcracker Prince. The ballet mostly just cribs from the first part of the story and is presented in different variations depending on the production. The first production of the ballet was kind of a flop, but Tchaikovsky's music wasn't. People liked that. Later, the ballet was revived and found great success on stage, on TV, and in the movies. Let's take a look at some of these, shall we? First up, we have a version from 1977, starring the great Mikhail Baryshnikov. This was shot on video for television, the kind of thing you'd see on PBS back in the day. This is a straight rendition of the ballet, a production overseen by Baryshnikov himself, and as you'd expect, it's quite good. This is the story as the art of dance. It's fairly simple in its production values, fairly bare bones. The artistry of dance is the focus, not the scenery. That's very different from our next version, Nutcracker, the motion picture from 1986. This production was staged by the Pacific Northwest Ballet Company and has the benefit of Maurice Sendak of Where the Wild Things Are fame as the designer. This one was definitely staged for the camera, and it's gorgeous. It's a faithful adaptation with very fine production quality. They had a small budget and had to work quickly, reportedly shooting the entire thing in less than 2 weeks. Even so, I love a lot of the work they put into this. This is probably my favorite version of Herr Drosselmeyer. Here, he's kinda twitchy, almost like Mozart in Amadeus. In narration from an older version of Clara, reminiscing about Christmas, she says she loved her godfather, but he also tended to scare her. He's not creepy, but he's on the spectrum somewhere. One cool thing is at the beginning we see him designing and building his fabulous clockwork toys. All in all, a wonderful effort. Next up, we have the version from 1993, featuring the New York Ballet Company. Yup, this is the one that stars Macaulay Culkin. This one is different in several ways. First, unlike the 1986 film, it's shot for the stage, not the camera. That's okay, that's a legitimate choice. Second, Culkin is explained as being Herr Drosselmeyer's nephew, which is kind of a nod to the original source material, the Hoffman story. And third, there are two ways of telling the story. In the first, assuming she's not already played by an adult, when Clara enters Fairyland, the little girl is replaced by an adult, so the character can do all the ballet dancing and the romantic dance with the prince. That's what they did in the 1986 one. The other way is to have Clara stay a little girl and simply have other dancers do all of the dancing. That's what they opted to go with here, so they could have Culkin. Culkin was not a dancer, of course, although he does mince about in one scene. No, here Culkin as the Nutcracker Prince and Clara sit around for like 40 minutes, while the Sugar Plum Fairies and other Candyland dancers do all the dancing. They just sit and watch. Okay, they do cut to the kids once or twice to show them applauding or whatever, but most of the time they just sit there in the background. To be fair, the Baryshnikov one does something like that too, but just look at how bored Culkin is. Look at the look on his face. Can't say I blame him though. So Culkin here, he is completely superfluous to events. I gotta say, pure stunt casting. Having him in this in no way harms the production, but doesn't really help it either. He had his big break in 1990 with Home Alone, and then Home Alone 2, both Christmas movies. I can imagine the studio executives now. Hey, do we have any other Christmas stuff we can put this kid in?
Well, there's this Nutcracker movie we're making.
Okay, sign him. Look at that outfit. Man, it's terrible. Terrible costume. Oh, that poor kid. There was also trouble on the set in this one. See, Culkin's dad was acting as his agent, I guess, and he was being an asshat. He found out they were adding some narration to help explain the action to the audience, which is pretty standard. In fact, the other versions we talked about did that too. And they got Kevin Kline to record the lines. Well, Culkin Sr. didn't like that and demanded they remove it. They went round and round about it, and eventually the director gave in. That's when the dad came back with a whole hatful of demands. and the director got pissed off and put Kevin Kline's narration back in. So, in revenge, his dad wouldn't let Macaulay Culkin do any press to promote the picture. Well, I don't know if it would have mattered in the end, since the picture was a flop. With a budget of about $19 million, it only made back $2 million. But to be totally fair, it's not awful. I mean, the New York Ballet certainly knows how to dance and stuff. I like the grandfather here. He looks like he's having a good time. But if you were going to see this because Macaulay Culkin was in it, and you were thinking Kevin from Home Alone, you'd be very disappointed. He just doesn't have enough to do here. It's an extended cameo at best. So moving on, let's look at one more. Like A Christmas Carol, the Nutcracker has been made into lots of media, even cartoons. This is one. And it's awful. I mean, really, really awful. This is Christmas excrement. This is what happens when you eat dollar store fruitcake. This is what comes out. I'm talking about the Nuttiest Nutcracker, and it is among some of the worst things I have ever seen with my eyes. Here, some CGI fruits, vegetables, and nuts help Alice from Wonderland Barbie here and Keanu Reeves fight the Mouse King, who wants to force them to work in his cheese mine and steal the star from the top of the Christmas tree and ruin Christmas or something. Ugh. This came out in 1999 and aired on CBS in prime time, no less. Jim Belushi, Cheech Marin, and Phyllis Diller lent their voices to this, and man, did they get screwed. The production is an absolute embarrassment. But Barkey, you say? You're being too hard on it. This is for kids and came out in 1999 after all. Yes, and you know what else came out in 1999? Toy Story 2. Toy Story 1 came out in 1995. Okay, sure. I wouldn't expect something like this to have the production values of a Pixar movie, but just look at this crap. And it's no accident the Nutcracker Prince looks like Keanu Reeves, as The Matrix came out that year too, and Reeves was a hot property. Ugh. It looks like it was made in Poser 3D by a teenage webcomic artist posting to DeviantArt. Okay, it does have some unintentional comedy value, but that's about it. The animation is awful, the songs are excruciating to listen to. Belushi's trying, but his performance is wasted, and the whole thing is really annoying. Okay, to sum up, the 1997 version is great if you want to see pure ballet as an art form. I don't know much about ballet, but it's probably worth at least 2 3/4 paws. The 1993 version is good, although Macaulay Culkin is not why you'd want to watch it. Good production, though. I'd give that 2 3/4 paws as well. It does have some merit to it. The 1986 version is hands down my favorite. It's at least a 3-paw picture right there, and my recommendation for your Christmas viewing of the Nutcracker this year. The Nuttiest Nutcracker is not Cats 2019, but it would be if Cats 2019 didn't exist. Have a paw for unintentional comedy value. And I'm being very, very generous with that score. So, there you go. The Nutcracker. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.